We still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is another Ask Steve episode. Wow, what a day. Another day. And Newcastle United, once again, the focus of attention of the world's media. And Isak wish is the way that Sky are choosing to publicise the story, followed quite quickly with Liverpool interest. So what does it all mean? Well, it means that Alexander Isak has made it quite clear that he's wanting to look at other options other than staying at Newcastle. Obviously, clearly keeping his options open. Nothing's done yet, of course. He hasn't put pen to paper for anybody. Nobody's actually officially come in with an offer yet. The media feeding frenzy, though, which we've had, let's face it, since Alexander Isak started banging goals in for Newcastle, and it has been relentless, has now reached a new level. And from our perspective, it's just a case of sitting here and waiting to see what happens. Can I call for calm? Can I tell people not to worry? Of course I can't. I know absolutely nothing about this. I don't know what's going on other than what you do. And I'm sure the rest of the lads we'll tell you the same on the Amigos tomorrow night. Of course, as always, we get tidbits from people who we trust, people who we think probably will be coming in with the truth. We got heads up about various things at the back end of last week and the start of this week, but none of it I felt would lead to Newcastle United's star striker saying that he wanted to leave the club or he wanted to explore his options, as he put it. So the uncertainty grows. What does it all mean for us? Well, it means that we now potentially will need to sign 2 strikers and not 1. Of course, all the speculation at the moment is leading Newcastle to various names. And we know that somebody like Dominic Calvert-Lewin on one end of the spectrum is free and could be picked up by Newcastle at the drop of a hat. We know that Newcastle are actively chasing Johan Wissa from Brentford. We also know that there are other strikers at a higher level financially who are available for clubs in that potential market of bringing in a big name striker. Newcastle, of course, could go for Sesko, but it's like pulling names out of a hat at the moment. Newcastle have gone in overdrive today, sending emails out. South Korean winger Park Sung-yu was signed for Newcastle, of course. They were sending out emails about arriving across there and then about that. It was all almost like deflection tactics as to, what was going on with regards to, the big story which everybody wants to know about. Newcastle, as far as I'm concerned, haven't, well, not that I've seen anyway, have not really responded to what's going on with this, and maybe maybe they won't, maybe they will, who knows? But you know what? There's nothing we can do about it. As I said at the top of the show, there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. It has that kind of feel about it, of course, that in the 90s we went through this. Those who were old enough to remember, we went through this with Andy Cole. Andy Cole had just broken Hughie Gallagher's record at St James's Park, scoring over 40 goals in one season. Got off to a great start, of course, coming at the back end of the promotion season and then doing so well in our return to the Premier League. Losing Andy Cole was an absolute travesty for us. Keegan coming out on the steps, and essentially for us it was a big blow. But remember, nobody is bigger than the club. No name is bigger than the club. Not even Alan Shearer was big. And it's funny, I've been, let's say, downsizing my collection of clippings. Anytime I commented on Newcastle, I would always put it in a file. I didn't really have a very good filing system, but I've been going back through some old stuff, primarily because I wanted to find what we all did with regards to the stadium last time round, and that's made some interesting reading. But the thing that I've found interesting in there is I did stumble across the Andy Cole stuff, and that reminds me very much of that time. This reminds me very much of that time. And what did Newcastle United go and do when Andy Cole left after Keegan had braved the fans on the steps? Well, he came out and he went out, and Newcastle United broke the bank and went and signed Alan Shearer. So that was in the good old days when we nearly won the league. We got the cup finals, and it is fair to say are in better days now. We've got great owners. We've got 2 cup finals under our belt in 3 years, won one, lost one, and we've been in the Champions League a couple of times. We are heading towards being regular competitors in the Champions League. So this may not be as bad as we think. Am I trying to sugarcoat it? Am I trying to paint a rosier picture? Am I trying to say don't panic? And maybe I am in one way. I was quite down the other night when I was on the podcast, and on the fans forum, I got a chance to have me say, I said one thing, George said another, but it's the emotional roller coaster of Newcastle United. And as a fan who travelled to Celtic, I was disappointed. And, it was only a couple of days after the disappointment of going to Celtic. That felt very much like a reality check. It felt frustrating because, with Isak missing for whatever reason, we didn't have anybody there who could step in. We certainly looked shot shy. We're creating a problem for ourselves. And with less than 3 weeks to go now, I guess, until the start of the season, we need to be bringing in a striker ASAP. If they have a feeling that Isak's going to go, then they need to look at the possibility now of bidding more for Wissa and bringing him in. I think Wissa's a great acquisition, but we still need somebody else. Wissa will be delighted, I guess, to come to Newcastle if he thinks he's going to be starting in, against Aston Villa in that first game of the season. First in, you would imagine, will start. But this opens the door, I guess, for Newcastle to explore the possibility of going after, one of the Villa strikers, or signing somebody from the continent. What price? Harry Kane. He's a lot older, of course, but he's still got a lot to offer. And, the way Newcastle United play could essentially come back to England and break Shearer's record in Newcastle's shirt. We mentioned it before, tongue in cheek, of course. Chris Wood could return 20 goals last season. Don't stop biting at that. I am joking. But Newcastle, again, they could go for another player. They could rattle somebody else's cage. Newcastle could have, an opportunity to bring somebody in. And we've got to be positive, So, look, the big thing about Alexander Isak, for me personally, is that at times his body language has seemed a bit off. He has it almost seems as if he's picked and chose when he's been able to play, or when he's played. Newcastle have been careful with him, said. But one thing I'll say as well is if he's not happy, and he has had his head turned, you can't have an unhappy player at the club. And I will keep repeating this, and probably less so tomorrow, but when I have an opportunity, I will. One man doesn't make a team, and nobody is bigger than Newcastle United. So I'll be disappointed if he goes. I was disappointed when Andy Cole left. Christ, it shows you how the mighty have fallen. When Andy Carroll left, I was annoyed and upset because Andy Carroll looked as if he was going to be the next big thing at Newcastle, and we got 39 million for him. Proved to be a really good deal with the injuries that he had, but they come and go. There's lots of you were at Newcastle United as fans when Supermac left. You were disappointed about that. Lots of you were disappointed when when other strikers have left, I'm sure. So that's what I'm trying to say. Strikers come and go. Let's not get too downhearted, and let's hope Newcastle can make. If he does end up leaving, they can make a lot of money. Links, of course, with Real Madrid now. Links with Saudi Arabia, Al Hilal. Does he really want to go to Saudi Arabia? Is he really chasing 250,000, 300,000 pound a week to kick a football around in Saudi? Is that what he really wants? Or has he had his head turned by the possibilities of going to Liverpool, playing in the Champions League, winning the league, potentially winning the Premier League, and winning the and winning the Champions League with them? I mean, let's face it, Liverpool are building on a very successful team. They've had a hell of a summer with their outgoings, and if they bring in Alexander Isak, I think you could probably say to them, you might as well hand them the league now. So it is sad. It is upsetting. It is annoying. You choose your superlative. It's very disappointing as a Newcastle fan to be in this position, but it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it as supporters. We've just got to sit and wait. Let's hope the club can get some kind of motivation behind the scenes. Lots of people point to the fact that we haven't got a sporting director, etc. Well, yes, we haven't. And is that half the problem? Is that the reason? Or is it because Newcastle said we're going to have X, Y, and Z in? We heard about Alanga talking about players coming in. We haven't got anybody else in apart from Alanga, really. Yeah, we've got a few fringe players, but nobody else. Is that the reason that Isak's not happy? Can it be it's strange. It's a strange situation. Anyway, I've waffled on for 10, 11 minutes. Let's get to your question. Should be lively tonight. Does anyone have John Dole Thomason or Andrew Sananz's number? That's where we were. That's where we were at, isn't it? Is it possible today's apporting events might work out okay? Well, I think I've talked about that. Potentially, we've got a pot which could bring about 5 team-ready players in if we can get it right. And who knows, John? That's the problem. Who knows, and how long will it take for a deal to go through? If there is interest, Newcastle I'm sure we'll have 1 or 2 suitors for his signature. Newcastle, I'm sure, won't want to sell him to a rival. Is it coincidence that Isak's news breaks on the same day that the squad flies the other side of the world? It breaks when it breaks. It breaks when someone's brave enough to break the story and they've got the facts right, and they clearly have on this occasion. Today's news massively reduces the significance of the Far East tour for most two fans. Should Eddie consider coming home early? He won't be able to do that because ultimately it's contracted, John. You won't be able to drag people away. This isn't, like I say, one player isn't bigger than another player in the squad. Yeah, Isak's the goal scorer, but ultimately, it's a contracted tour. They won't be able to pull out, and they wouldn't do that. He's got 3 years left on his contract, so in theory, the ball's very much in our court. Do you think that's important? Not at all. I don't think contracts mean anything, John. I think contracts are there to be broken. All that does is give us financially a chance to really get a good amount of money in for him if he does want to go. And I'll reiterate, if he does want to go, and he wants, and if those, and he said now that he wants to explore other options, I wouldn't keep him. I wouldn't keep him. I would let him go because he's clearly had his head turned. And how committed is he going to be? We don't want an unhappy striker next season. We don't want somebody who doesn't get a move and is made to play for Newcastle United and then suddenly gets an injury. And, it beggars belief, all of that. It's interesting, the timing of all of this. And I'm just glad this didn't happen on the last day of the transfer window when we didn't have a replacement for Wilson, because that would have been an absolute nightmare. Does today's event shake your faith and fairness and integrity of the EPL? We've got the richest owners in the world, but Masters and the lads just don't seem to want us as number one. Any thoughts? This really isn't anything to do with Richard Masters, This is to do with a player and where his head's at. He doesn't see Newcastle United as the future for him. He was always going to outgrow us, I think. I think when we saw him play for the first time at Anfield, I was at the game and he was outstanding that night. Newcastle weren't really at the races. But, you know, the offside goal that wasn't offside was because of the shadow, was, you know, was one of those players who I genuinely thought he's really, really good. How long can we keep him? But it's just the way it is. Nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can say about it other than, you know, this is down to the player and his representatives. He wants to go. And I don't think this has got anything to do with the EPL, mate. If you want my honest, if you want my honest views, how much would you pay for a dull week on Barrack Road? There's never been one in my fan supporting existence, mate, ever. And like I say, I'm going through old cuttings and old news stories and stuff. And wow, God, I had so much faith in managers coming in. I'm reading reading some of the stuff, you know, and reading some other people who are still, you know, a lot of people used to comment in fans forums in the Chronicle and stuff like that. We all had faith in Souness, Hullett, Dalglish, you know, going to turn it around and going to do this and going to do that. How wrong were we? We couldn't have foreseen what was going ahead. Don't be surprised to see Liverpool offer a player, Ekitike, plus cash offer for Isak. Nah, sure, they're not going to offer Ekitike, not when they've just signed him. And I don't think Newcastle would be interested in Ekitike. He's turned them down. And, you know, I think there will be a player, one or two players maybe, who Newcastle may be offered. Elliott has been mentioned there by Derek Sharp. He says he'd take 150 and Harvey Elliott. But yeah, there are one or two players who Newcastle may or may not be offered. But it'll be up to Newcastle. The owners need to come out and reassure the fans they're still 100% behind the project. And we can expect better things until they do. I believe they aren't bothered anymore. Yeah, I mean, the problem is that we've got nobody in place to do that. The CEO, as we know, had his notice served, and like he worked his notice, until the end of June, and he's no longer at the club. So, you know, as far as we're concerned, he has moved on. So what do? You know, we need somebody to come out and say something. Eddie Howe at the moment is the person who will have to come out and say that at the press conference in Asia. So we will have to wait and see what Eddie says. Jules, good evening to you. She's just doing the usual stuff in the chat. John says, sell him immediately. The Pratt has waited until now to tell us he wants to move. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, for me, his agent's been playing the game. And his agent wins no matter what happens. His agent will win if he stays and he gets an additional 50 to 100,000 on his contract, and he wins if he moves. So, you know, agents have a lot to answer for, John. The player, though, is keen to go. Maybe he should put a transfer request in, but let's see how it all pans out. It's the system that's the problem, says John. John says the whole thing is anti-competitive and a whole lot more. Look at Liverpool, our owners are far stronger financially, but they can spend twice as much. Am I missing something? Yeah, but Liverpool it's the commercial revenue, John. That's the problem, the commercial revenue. You know, it was well explained on Sky this afternoon when I got back in, actually, you know, and Liverpool can spend because, you know, they're so far ahead of Newcastle United commercially, as are the other top 5 or 6 clubs. The way I see it, that I suspect the club knew before the Celtic game that Isak wanted to go. Of course they did, because he wasn't there. Does it mean he's a cert to leave? No, not 100%, but I think many fans want him sold. Look, I don't think many fans want Isak sold. Many fans just want some clarity and want an explanation, and they want it sorted before the start of the season. I.e., if he is going to go, get rid and bring in a couple of strikers that we need. That's what we need to do. It could be a blessing in disguise. Andy Cole was a blessing in disguise. When he left, we got Shearer in, albeit not till the following, you know, the following transfer window. But it was a good move at the end of the day. Denise, do people think Isak has put in a transfer request? Well, he said there hasn't been a transfer request mentioned, and Sky certainly aren't running at it. He just said he's looking at his options, Denise. Does anyone think Isak's injured? And it's exactly just that. No, I do not think he is injured. He's carried this knock pretty much for 6 months. And, you know, will he pass a medical? If, you know, that, you know, will anybody sign him for 150 million plus if he's not 100% fit? Lots of questions come on that. But at this moment in time, he hasn't put a transfer request in. until we see it on TV or it's confirmed by Newcastle, then the answer is no on that. Isak wants 300k a week to sign a new contract for me. I would pay it if we can afford it. Tom, I wouldn't now. I wouldn't. I genuinely wouldn't. And of course, the knock-on effect of that, Tom, is that there will be other players' contracts which stipulate that they have to be paid X, Y, and Z if you pay that. Newcastle financially can't do that. And would you do it for a player who's holding you to ransom? Nah. No player is bigger than the club. Let him go. Let him go. Let him go to Saudi. That's where he wants to go. We'll learn a lot more about Alexander Isak now, which club he goes to, more than anything else. I'm pretty sure Newcastle won't want to deal with Liverpool. I'm pretty sure they won't, but they might have to. Might be the only deal that comes in. And we've got to think about the atmosphere in the dressing room now. You know, the fact that the players play, you know, a lot of the players are now in Asia, you know, without him. It's the uncertainty it's caused at the start of the season. He's asked the question, has to go for me, 150 million in to better the squad massively. So it's already got people saying one thing and another. Tom saying, give him the money, you know, and Roger saying he's asked the question to go. So yeah, listen, it's already splitting fans. I don't think it's very ambitious going to Liverpool. Yes, they won the Premier League, but no one challenged them really. Who's to say they will again go to Real Madrid or similar? Just Liverpool, not ambitious. I think it's ambitious because they're in the Champions League. They've won the league. He's got the opportunity to be, you know, to play with some great players at Liverpool and potentially win the Premier League, which is still the biggest league in the world. So I do think it's ambitious, and he gets a chance to play in the Champions League. In his mind, I guess it's with the team that should go further than Newcastle. So it's ambitious to that extent. I always had a feeling with him that he wouldn't be here long. I didn't expect this though. I did not expect this to happen this summer. I really, really don't know what the reasoning is behind it, but you know, there will be a reason. The Isak wants to go, let him go. There's no stopping him. He's probably doing what he can at Newcastle. Tommy, reversed there. Hulk Hogan has passed away, has he, Roger? I've not seen that, mate. Christ, it's a week for losing big name celebrities, isn't it? Where is it reported? And I'm not up to date. It's on Sky, Denise. Everything is on Sky. Is this our Andy Cole and Malcolm McDonald moment? One left and Shearer arrived. The other left and we got relegated shortly afterwards. We're not going to get relegated, John. There's no doubt about that. Newcastle are too good a team, and I know that's an old adage. You know, you should never say that. But let's face it. Sunderland are in the division. There's one place taken up. There's a couple of others, I'm sure, worse off than Newcastle. But just because we're losing Isak, you know, if he does go, it doesn't mean, you know, that Newcastle are suddenly going to become relegation fodder. Who thinks Isak's after a big money move to Saudi? It's possible, Barry. Mr. B. Taylor, sorry. I always call you Barry, thinking it is Barry. You might be Barry, you might not be. Otherwise, why wait to advise the club now that he wants to move? The so-called big clubs have bought their strikers. It's an interesting point. Maybe he does want the Saudi move. Rumours abound that his representatives are already out in Saudi, but you know, again, that's just rumours. Gutted but more annoyed at PSR and the corrupt Premier League and big boys cartel. Will we ever be able to catch up to them? Feels like when Beardo and Carroll went to the Scousers. It does feel like Andy Cole for me. Not as much Andy Carroll, although I was gutted when Carroll left. But yeah, it's a strange scenario. But those of us who are in the over 40s category, we've all been over 40s, 50s and 60s, we've all been through this. Use what Paul Charlton got to say. Use the Isak money for Sesko, Morgan Rogers, and with Isak coming, we are defo stronger next season. This is the bonus, but then we've actually got to get people in. I mean, hopefully with Newcastle, if they do get the big money in for Isak, then hopefully we can essentially get players in. Hopefully we won't be going in for players at 40, you know, who are rated at 40 million and offering 25. We're going to have to go and bite the bullet and pay what clubs want. You know, if we suddenly quickly move and bring in players, it will appease people, but the longer it goes on without bringing players in, it's going to be so frustrating. What the actual is going on in the club, so disappointed. All the usual media sources are lapping it up. They are, Mark, and it is disappointing. 3 weeks till the season kick off and a rudderless ship. It is a mess at the moment. It really, really is. There's no doubt about it. And no player is bigger than NUFC, which is what I said before, mate. Steve, has Isak actually has to leave? I must be so far behind with these comments. Where is the statement? It's on Sky. He's asked to explore his options. That's what it says, Denise. That's exactly what it says. It's official. Newcastle United have confirmed that he's asked to explore the options. So it's as simple as that. He hasn't asked for a transfer. That's a completely different thing. He's asked to explore his options. Morning, Jack. I bet this only goes one way. Yeah. What are you talking about, the show? So we are still a selling club after all. We're a selling club if somebody wants to leave, Alan. No doubt about that. In my opinion, Stephen, Isak is an exceptional case, just my view. Nobody is bigger than the club, not even how. Correct. We go forward. The club is bigger than anyone, but we fans have the right to be told where the club is and where it's heading, says Derek. They all leave at some point, come and go. We are constant. Correct, Mozza. The silence is deafening from the boardroom and has been for a while, says Alan. So he's not injured. He's not travelled because he's looking at options, but that could still be us. Yes, no. Nobody knows whether he's injured or not. Eddie Howe has now said he's injured. The club have said he's injured. They said he's got a thigh strain. But because the story on Saturday that Eddie Howe gave at Celtic was that he'd sent him home because he didn't want him being the focus because of all the transfer talk, there was no mention of the thigh injury. It's just typical. You've got to say things in a sensible way when you are speaking on behalf of Newcastle United, because if you don't, it gets torn to shreds, ripped apart, and that's where the rumours and stories start. We don't know if he's injured. He's been training on his own, Denise. Somebody put a photograph of him training on his own. There's rumours flying around that he's not even training at Newcastle now. He's training elsewhere. Again, more rumours flying around than anything else. But we don't know, Denise. Nobody really knows. But we do know, we have had it confirmed, that he is asked if he can look at explore all options. That's as simple as it is. If we sell Isak, I hope we sell him to PSG or Al Hilal. Yeah, I hope he doesn't stay in the Premier League. I knew last season he would go. He didn't look bothered at all when we did the war flags for him. Yeah, Paul, he's got that sullen kind of character, and ultimately, I agree. At times, I felt as if he wasn't busting a gut when he was on the pitch. Now, you could put that down to him. Maybe he's carrying a thigh strain, groin injury, call it what you will. But at times, I agree, Paul, he didn't look bothered. We've sold much better than Isak and found new ones, says Terry. And that's the point I've been trying to make all along. Craig, are you out walking your dog? I'm bored with the whole thing. Sell him and be done with it. What does explore transfer options even mean? Yeah, he's looking at all options. He doesn't. He wants money, doesn't he? He wants money from Newcastle United. He wants a pay rise. If he doesn't get it, he'll be off. And just let him go. Let him go. It's like a relationship. When it goes sour, it only goes one way. Love Isak, but he can't stay here after the day. And I feel sorry for everyone who's gone out and bought replica shirts and put Isak 14 on the back now. You know, those shirts now, will be meaningless if he goes. Do you think people in charge, in the way that they've handled this transfer window, been the main contributor to wanting to leave, in your opinion, or has the media spin been the reason? JW, it's hard to say because we don't get the information that we used to get from the club on a regular basis. JW, the way that the club have handled things, well, all we know is that we don't have the usual lines of communication, i.e. the sporting director, the CEO. We have people obviously stepping in, the CEO, to do that job, but it's got to have played its part in the fact that we haven't been able to put X, Y, and Z. And with Newcastle losing out on their main targets quite publicly, maybe that's part of the reason he wants to explore his options. Maybe that's it. Lenny says, Sodom, it's betrayal in the name of greed. He can go anywhere but Liverpool. If he goes there, will be seen as a weak target. Lenny, again, I can't disagree with you. Yep, Sean, rest in peace, Hulk Hogan, very sad. It does scream Keegan on the steps. There's already somebody who's put a photo going round of Eddie Howe on the steps talking to the supporters. What is this? What this does is force the club to be serious. And there should be some communication, though. There needs to be communication. The national media will be so happy after spinning this story for weeks. You're right, Alan. I can see this dragging on, says Jules. It wouldn't surprise me if this is done near the end of the window, which would leave us in such a mess. Well, that would be disastrous. It really would be. And times have changed, Steve. We are being held back. What this does is force the club to seriously invest in a forward line. Whistle be a great buy, but we need a statement from the club now, which is interesting. Trump will be gutted, says Terry Thomas. TalkSport have even posted a photo of Isak in a Liverpool shirt, which is shocking. Hope he doesn't sign for them. May as well give up if the Scousers sign Isak. I wouldn't let it go for a penny less than 150 million. Yeah, I would agree. Okay, halfway through the show. Good God, that's flew over. We'll have a quick ad break. Back after this.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach. All excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk.
And don't forget the fanzine subscriptions are due now. If you want 4 issues next season for £25, which includes your postage, then get yourself to the website nufcmatters.co.uk and you will get 4 issues. All proceeds from the fanzine go to Age UK North Tyneside Dementia, and that's a big thank you to United Group Travel, who sponsor the printing of the fanzine, which means we can give all the proceeds away. Last chance as well to come along to the Cup final screening tomorrow, nufcmatters.co.uk. It is free entry, still some tickets left, and anyone who enters by the website and comes along tomorrow could win one of those replica Carabao Cup medals. And might as well do a job lot on these now. He won't be signing any more, will he, if he goes? Alexander Isak, goal, cup winning goal in the cup final. Signed pictures are available on the website as well, nufcmatters.co.uk. Get them before anybody else does. We have got a few shirts left on there as well, but most of the shirts have gone, I'm pleased to say. Okay, let's get back into the comments as well. Lots of comments coming in. I won't get through them all tonight, but obviously the majority of you want to be talking about Isak. Gary says, if Isak goes, then let's get it over with to give Eddie enough time to build the squad. Yano says, so Isak wants to consider your options. Here's your options, mate. You've got 3 years left in your contract. So your options are work your bollocks off to be worthy of the contract that you've got. I like it. Get yourself in the dressing room and tell him that. The hidden truth about Alexander Isak and why he wants to leave Newcastle, why Star was furious with Paul Mitchell's decision and what he really wants, and the twist could send him the twist that could yet see him sign a new deal, says B. Taylor. A lot of that is from a couple of media sources. A lot of people saying that, Craig Hope's posted that. A lot of people saying that Mitchell had promised him a contract and then backtracked on it, and now he's been binned or he's left by mutual consent, inverted commas. But yeah, a lot of people saying that's the reason that Isak's not happy, or at least Isak's representatives aren't happy. And that really will be the situation, I guess, because, from Isak's agent's point of view, he's lost out on a few quid, hasn't he, if they're not going to offer him a new contract. The only two strikers we have managed to keep long-term were Shearer and Milburn, both local lads. All the others we've sold. Like you said, Steve, all players leave in the end. Tel Ross says we've got to wait and see what happens, but we're never short of drama. 2 steps forward, 3 back. Paula Abdul song, isn't it? Question now is, will we get a good striker before the window shuts? That is the $150 million question. If he goes to the Scousers, it'll make us look weak and useless. Howie PIF, where are you, says John. Fletch makes a very valid point. If PIF were parents, they would be up for neglect. It's a strange scenario because they don't come out and speak. And at the moment, we have nobody in a position of power who is willing to do that either. Champions League worries now. Jules, it's just a worrying start to the season, isn't it, for Newcastle, if we don't go into it with at least 1 striker, never mind 2. At the end of the day, we get free of PSR and FFP for years to come, and 700 plus amortized from the fee to spend, which, that is a good point. Communication from the club's diabolical, Lenny. I couldn't disagree with you at all. Rob, good evening, our designer. He goes, absolutely right, Steve. Players do leave. Let's get good profit from it while he's still at value. You had to go there, Steve. Broke my heart when Supermark left. You were right. No one's bigger than the club, says Tel. Steve, are you surprised by Isak's willingness to leave? Has that changed your opinion of him? Doesn't matter how many flags, banners, signs, showing love to a player. In the end, it counts for now. Yeah, I'm not surprised because, like Paul Charlton, I think going to watch him home and away last season, he had a chip on his shoulder that he just isn't. He's not. Listen, some people just aren't an emotional kind of person, but there always seems to be something about him. He may well stay still. You get the money he wants, but how are the fans going to feel about that? That statement that's come out is a strange one. If he does say and sign a new contract, and Newcastle do decide to keep him, he's going to have to come out and face the music about what that statement actually meant. James says it's the way it's all been handled, Steve. That's the problem. We've made a total hash of this, and it's a right slap bang in the middle of what is so far looking like a disappointing summer window. James, you are 100% right. I agree. Haven't felt like this since my first love blew me out, says Paul. Money is the biggest motivator, not songs or flags. Money doesn't talk, it swears, Lenny. Does anyone think we're going to sell him to a Premier League team? I don't think. I think he goes to the continent. It depends who's got the money, and there's not many teams have got the money, Jack. We've discussed this many times on here. Real Madrid's, your Barcelona's, your PSG's, and your Liverpool's are the teams that can seriously, bid for Newcastle United players and have a chance of getting them. So from our perspective, Liverpool is probably the only team in the Premier League. And it's where does he want to play? Which league does he want to play? Saudi, of course, as well. I mentioned Saudi. They have the money, but not many people seem to want to go there. Nobody wants him to go to Liverpool. I think we all hope that he goes elsewhere if he does leave. I just hope they get top dollar for him, but often when a player says he wants to leave, the sale price drops. Yes, I would agree. No one wants to sell their best players, but we could bring in Sesko, Wissa and Trafford with the Isak money and still have our transfer budget to play with. Yeah, I agree. There is positives. It's hopefully getting deals over the line and not going in at a small price. Well, we've saved Wilson's wages, get rid of Target, Ruddy and Gillespie. You've got over 200k per week to improve Isak's wages. Yeah, sell him to Everton, says Craig. This was on the cards when Amanda left, says John Scott. Thank you to everybody watching on Twitter, by the way. Jump over onto YouTube, search NUFC Matters, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week, and it is free to subscribe. He's going to get some abuse if he starts at Liverpool in our first home game. Yeah, it's going to be a white-hot atmosphere, that, isn't it, if he does go there. Going to Saudi, I'll bring him 400k a week plus, if that's what he wants. No players bigger than the club. Sell for 150 million plus and invest in the squad. Eddie needs help. Keith, you are right. Barry, good evening. Steve, how stupid does it make Eddie look after his reason he missed the Celtic game was totally changed now to say he had an injury? I mean, look, is he injured, Barry, though? Is he injured? We don't know. Nobody knows. It doesn't make anybody look stupid if he is injured. Has he not recovered from that injury that he had last season? I don't know. We can't say that, Barry, because nobody knows whether he's injured or not. It's like getting blood out of a stone, getting information. If Eddie said he's injured, if he's got a slight injury, that's fine. But he said he sent him home. He said he sent him home because of the press speculation, because of what was going on. Eddie actually told more of the truth than anything else, really. He sent him home because of the transfer speculation. And now he said he's exploring his options. I guess it's up to the player to say that he's exploring his options, not up to the club to come out and say he's exploring his options. So now that the player has come out and said that, now we get the truth. But Eddie's very careful and always very sensible with the way that he puts things out there. So I think Eddie, now that all that did, right, was make everybody who listened to Eddie and watched that interview go, there's a rabbit off here. So who put it out that he's got a thigh injury? I don't know. Maybe he has, but Eddie told us more or less as much as he could, but he couldn't speak for the player, put it that way. Steve, if someone doesn't want to be at our club, so be it. He's being treated like a king here. We're in the Champions League. Really disappointed with the lad. Davey Eddie, yes, me too, mate. Me too. But you know what? There's also a bit of a relief that it's now out in the open. They can stop all the speculating. It's now come out that he does want to leave or explore his options, I should say. Not say leave, because he didn't say that. But it's almost a relief. So let's get it sorted, and let's get it sorted quickly. He hasn't looked happy for a year now, blue, hot and cold, depending on the game. Agree 100%. 300k a week it's ridiculous if that's what he wants as well. It's Andy Cole all over again. Yeah, it is. But we got through that and we signed Shearer. We will get money, but with the negotiators we won't get what we need this window. Trolls, I'm hoping that Newcastle will at least, allow them to spend the money that they get in and allow them to finally, unleash the spending power that they'll have. You know what I mean? John Spence, thank you for your fanzine order. Just got that. You've just subscribed to the fanzine for next season, which is much appreciated. I'm just going to reply to you there now whilst I'm on air. So there we go. Order received. Eddie's not stupid. He has to play a corporate line as best he can amongst extremely difficult and fluid events. Let's get 150 million. It could honestly be transformative for our team going forward, says Paul. And is it PSR stopping us offering higher wages? Of course it is, Barry. Of course it is. We can't pay people 250,000 £250,000 a week because we haven't been making the commercial revenue for 14 years before the takeover. So we can't afford to pay those wages. It is greed, It is greed. It's worse than greed. It's disrespect for a club that gave them an opportunity and took a risk. And again, I can't disagree with anybody's comments tonight so far in the chat. Always thought Isak would leave at any time, says Chris. Never showed any emotion to a club like Bruno, for example. Yeah, even the cup final, was, it's a different thing with other players. It's sad to see, but players come and go. We've got to take the risk, or in reality, nothing's changed. It's time PIF drew some and challenged the bent cartel rules. Why they haven't, none of us know. Will they change things in the future? Who knows? If we sell Isak, we'll be able to compete massively. After the Carabao Cup, he was bang average for the last 9 games. Of course, he had his head turned. Adios, and we moved on. He's worth 300 grand a week as he's world class. I don't think any player should be getting anything over 200 grand a week. I just think, I think it's disgusting what players get. I tell you what, it would sharp change if the Premier League said it was, performance related pay. You get a basic and then you get paid on performances. I hate it. I hate what the Premier League's brought to football. I never liked it in the first place. Again, going through my old stuff, I found a fanzine when the Premier League started, and I felt the bubble would burst a season later. And here we are in 2025, and it still hasn't burst. It's awful. It's ruined the game. The game's awful compared to what it was when I started supporting Newcastle in the 80s. I hate it. I do. I really do. It's not what it was. Hope the situation doesn't cause unrest with the rest of the squad. Bruno was brilliant all the way through the Arsenal nonsense. His head was never turned. But now, I don't think we'll start seeing a mass exodus of players. But the players' committee's going to have their work cut out over the next couple of weeks, aren't they? The way I'm looking at it, if he goes, we've got 300 million to spend this window, which would really improve the team and squad. Yeah, and we've got to go out and spend it and not be. I mean, the problem is everyone will know we've got money to spend then, but we're just going to have to pay over the odds for some players. That's what we're going to have to do. We can't go treading cautiously when we're going in for a striker or two strikers. We're going to have to go in and say, right, we're going to go and spend this money. That's what we need to do. Spurs did it when they sold Harry Kane. They had to go and bring in players. Newcastle need to do the same. They really do need to do the same. Bring Amanda back, for God's sake. I think that ship sailed. I don't think Amanda will come back, to be perfectly honest. And why would she? I just think there's too much water under the bridge. Like you guys have said, Steve, we can't even get our arses off to improve our sponsorship deals. We are letting ourselves down. Don't know what's going on there. Don't know why it's happening. Really disappointing that we're not bringing in sponsorship deals. And of course, sponsorship deals would have helped. Yeah, we're bringing in, sponsorship deals behind the scenes, little ones here, there, and everywhere, but we're not bringing in the ones that everyone was hoping for: stadium sponsor, training ground sponsor, ones which would help up the wages and help everybody. You know what I mean? Must admit, if I was an employee of NUFC, I'd be looking to get out the Eddie Howe shit show. You know what? Again, I don't even think we can comment on what's going on like that. We're hearing rumors and half rumors about him and about his nephew and about Nixon, and Eddie wants it this way or no way. I don't believe any of that. I don't believe when the stories get leaked out, there's little bits of truth in it. We only ever find out the truth when people leave. Half the problem, I think it's been it's the sporting directors are brought in. What would you have done if Mitchell's left by, if mutual agreement, mutual consent, fair enough. But let's theoretically, hypothetically speak about Mitchell. What if Mitchell's been sacked? What's the first thing Mitchell would do? He'd go to all of our rivals and tell them what our transfer targets are. That's what he would do, I think, out of spite, if he'd been sacked. They've said mutual consent, so this is only a hypothetical. I think a lot of it has been down to the situations that have developed with our sporting directors and Newcastle's bad choices, bringing sporting directors in. And that's my view. And, I wouldn't be surprised if some of it's been down to that, but I don't lay the blame at Eddie Howe's door, not at Eddie Howe's door. And I'm not going to defend him and say that he hasn't had a part to play, but none of us know what's going on behind the scenes. And really, we can't comment on that. You can have an opinion on what you maybe heard or read, but I just, I'll be very surprised if Eddie Howe's not going to work with any sporting director, full stop. He's been in the game long enough to know that he's got to, I'm sorry, but if we allow him to go to Liverpool, we'll be seen as weak, given the incentive to other players to do the same would be a laughing stock. Well, it will be disappointing if that happens. Let's be totally honest, yeah, he's quite injury prone as well. We've had no backup striker for ages. It is disappointing, and he is injury prone. I'd like to invite our Saudi owners to watch some of the YouTube podcasts of other teams collectively getting together to celebrate and mock our beautiful city. Disgusting. Yeah. We just got to accept that, the Saudis aren't popular, and Newcastle United being owned by Saudis is always going to upset some, and people are going to be over the moon about it. Agents are not club's friend, they're a leech, but if a player wants to stay or go, then one expects the player to make sure the agents does as he is paid. Exactly, agents spoil football. Steve goes, don't worry, there's another kit out soon. Not be getting Isak on the back of it. Who would be your number one striker target? Gary, I really don't know, mate. I really don't know. Sesko, I've not watched enough of him. Everyone seems to think Sesko is the one to bring in. I would much rather go with people who've got Premier League class. I'd sign Wisser and Watkins, but would have to play to their strengths. I've always preferred a big man and a little man up front. Would you take a risk? Would anybody take a risk on Harry Kane if he was up for coming back to the Premier League? Harry Kane and Wisser, or Harry Kane and Watkins. Harry Kane's not going to be 100 million to bring him back, is he? Newcastle will have money to spend. Get 2 good years out of Harry Kane. The commercial value of bringing in a player like that. Still playing for England. We did it with Keegan. Keegan had a couple of good years and got us promoted. Shearer came, of course, when he was playing number 9 for England and captained England after that. So, yeah, it might not be as daft as it sounds, but that's just what I think. We are, do we now need to look for 2 strikers? Of course we do. All good teams have got 4 strikers, to be honest, Roger. You need to have cover. Never watched Cesco, but I'll take your word for it, Chris. Chris, neither have I. Do you think PIF have lost interest in the club? Seft and Mag, no, I don't. No, I definitely don't, mate. I definitely don't. I don't think they've lost, lost interest at all. Hi, Himanshu. Hope you're okay. I don't want Isak sold, but if he does go, move on. Look at some really good replacements, and we go again. Yeah, you've got to get into that mentality. Really, you've got to get into that mentality. Will the players know more than us who goes and who may come in? Yeah, I think they do. I mean, well. And I think, when players are going to sign for the club, they made promises. They're told this is happening, that's happening. So, maybe that's why Elanga came. Maybe he's a bit disappointed now. Why, when he didn't take the number 9, the writing was on the wall, says Steve. See, Dan Smith, I haven't seen you in the chat for a while. I hope you're well. What a disaster some of this has turned out to be. Hoping to move on and the wheels are falling off. Yeah, it's difficult to be upbeat, isn't it? This has been going on for as long as I've supported Newcastle. Waddle Gaza, Beardsley, as soon as the player states he wants to go, I lose all interest in him, get as much as you can for a mark. I agree with you on that as well. We can't hold on to somebody that's got his head turned. Got me first ticket for Liverpool home game in the ballot since Spurs last season. Can't believe I might be going there hoping Big Dan kicks him 6 foot in the air. Much more acceptable he went not from the Premier League as a sight of him kissing the Liverpool badge would be horrible. Yeah, exactly. Or doing the thumb thing over the shoulder to us. Afternoon, everyone. Just in from work. What have I missed? Nothing, Neil. Been very quiet afternoon. Could this day get any worse? Hulk maniac for life. Yeah, it's sad news about the passing of Hulk Hogan. Denise, Liverpool won the league when Man City had the poorest start, and Arsenal were, well, just Arsenal. Always the bridesmaids, never the bride. He even put a written transfer request, and I wouldn't sell him to Liverpool. Mark, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him, whether he puts a transfer request in or not. The timing of his 3 weeks left is flipping disgusting. I would agree. The voice of reason, totally agree, Steve. If it's true, Isak wants to explore their options, sell him on not his or his agent. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Listen, been through this before, haven't we? As fans, we know the score. I feel sorry for the young'uns who are now going through this for the first time. I think Isak at the moment is just his peak price. If he had a bad season or got injured, would we get 150 million next year? There's that to take into consideration. Crazy to think we paid 15 million for Shearer 30 years ago, and we're talking 10 times the price for Isak. Exactly. The bubble hasn't burst. It's got worse. It's mental. Be positive. I only think this could take us to stage 2. 200 million from Saudi, that'll do nicely. Yeah, then loan him back. I didn't expect it this summer. I thought he'd be looking to build with us. It's sad. It is. Ferdinand arrived after Cole went. Far better player. Cole was an arse. Isak looks the same way. Are you saying you don't expect Mackens to stay up, Steve? I'm shocked. I don't, mate. No. Like any area in life, if you've got a partner who is sniffing around elsewhere, you get rid. Simple. And if he really wants, somebody explained it the other day and says it's like your last coming back in the house with their knickers on back to front. I thought that was a great expression. If he really wants Liverpool, why didn't he speak up before they signed Ekatike? That is odd. Might not get relegated, but we won't last long in the Champions League. Exactly. Cole hurt more for me, probably because of my age at the time, but selling to Man U, who then pipped us for the title with him. Yeah, that was awful, wasn't it? Sell him, replace him with a new goalkeeper. New defender, new midfielder, and 2 new strikers. Wouldn't be a bad window in my opinion. I wasn't laughing at you, Ali. It's just the goalkeeper thing will get people talking in the chat, I'm sure, especially with us having so many. Was a relationship not strained between Cole and KK, hence his sale? Yeah, that whole Wimbledon thing where him and Clarkey went away a wall. Yeah, there was definitely a breakdown in communications, but he didn't really settle up here and he wanted to go to Man United. I like you seeing Waddle, Beardsley and Gascoigne go. No one is bigger than the club. Definitely not, Neil. It's about wages, though, Steve. Not so much transfer fees, I don't think. Yeah, wages. It by the sounds of it, reading between the lines, Mitchell's offered him a new contract, and now he's gone. Either the club have withdrawn that offer, or he has withdrawn it before he's been mutually departed the club. Even with Isak money, we can't afford top wages, which is why we're missing out. We can afford the transfer fee, not the wages, though we offered more for Ekatike than the Scousers. We can always afford wages. It's up to the player to take a deal. Look at Kieran Trippier, Barry. We can't afford wages, but we've got a wage structure. And the problem is, if somebody wants to be paid X amount of money, then there will be other players in that contract who have to be paid accordingly. So we can't afford wages, just not go out and spend ridiculous money like 250 to 300,000 on wages. It's as simple as that. If Isak does move, then I wish him well. He was good for us, but players move all the time, says Jim. We could have a budget of $1 billion, and I wouldn't be confident we'd sign anybody unless nobody else wants them. Yeah, but we did sign Elanga. Mate. So let's try and be a little bit positive in that respect. we did get that player in. I'm gonna have to try and whiz through a few more comments. As you said earlier, Steve, if Isak leaves, go up Harry Kane, but how much does he earn a week? Exactly, but may fancy a change, may fancy coming back to the Premier League and breaking Alan's record in a black and white shirt. It's like no one is fighting the Newcastle corner. Just let it sink at the minute, to be honest. Yeah, it does feel like that. I'd like to think with the extra cash, Eddie would like to upgrade the caliber of his targets elsewhere on the pitch. There's 2 pints of lager and a packet of Tudor, please. I love the name. Brilliant. Correct, Steve. We've got to pay the bit. We can't keep getting outbid. Yeah, which is disappointing. All the keepers cost £167,000 a week. It's crazy, says Steve. I've got a lot of goalkeepers. We all have to take a deep breath and not get carried away. What's meant to be will be. Don't allow the internet to go more than they have. Ian, silence from the club worries me. When the takeover happened, Ruben and co were loving talking to the fans. Now this happens, not a peep from the owners or the chairman. Yeah, the Ruben thing's very, very surprising. Threats are being stripped of ownership if PIF bend the rules. So it's fear from PIF. It's why they've done no dodgy dealings. Steve W, it almost feels like Mitchell leaking intel, which is what I said before. Doubt he won't have a clause saying he can't say anything about targets. Scully, good evening. Let's just get behind the team. What happens, move on. Yeah, we'll always do that. We will always do that, as you know. If we can't afford Isak's wages at 300,000, we can't afford Kane's at 400,000. Is that what he's on? Wow, unbelievable. He'd take a pay rise to come back to St James's Park and break Alan's record, though, won't he? Surely to God. Alan, good evening. It's not the end of the world. Many clubs have sold one away players and been stronger for it. Liverpool for one. Isak's peak value, but I've always felt he's injury prone. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm not going to be too disappointed. I just wouldn't want to sell him to Liverpool. Surely we can't sell him to Liverpool, says Scott. How weak does it make us look? Lots of people have said that. Losing out on both Ekatike and now selling Isak. Sell him to any other club than Liverpool and a Premier League team. I agree. Steve, I'm looking at it like we are going to lose a top player, but in the long run it might help us, which is what me and Paul have said. Grow quicker with 3 fronts to strengthen the squad. It's never been the same since Amanda left. Lots of you saying that. Take Isak out of last season, what would we have achieved? We wouldn't have won anything. We wouldn't have won the cup, Dean. Great season for him, but a great season for the club as well. Players don't come when we have Isak and 100 million. Why would they want to come when we've got Isak and 300 million and when we've got no Isak and 300 million? Says Supremish. Loads of players in Europe to go and get. Barca need to unload players and are under pressure. If we don't get some quality, and I can see Tonali and Bruno following in January, no, I don't think we'll have a mass exodus. I've said that earlier on. Media will be loving in this. Yes, there will be. Top show, great comments, and Steve on the ball as usual. How are the lads? Thank you, Davey. Roger, no more than the Macadam on Sky Sports, says Ian. And Ian, you're torturing yourself watching him, mate. Okay, so those of you just tuning in, I'm just about to finish. But yeah, the news is that Alexander Isak has said he would like to explore his options this close season. So what is going to happen with Alexander Isak? Well, your guess is as good as mine. Tomorrow night, back with the Amigos, 5 o'clock. It'll be on for an hour and a half. We'll be finishing at 6:30 as we are doing the screening of the League Cup final, which Alexander Isak scores in, by the way. There's a spoiler for you at the Irish Centre tomorrow for the North. For Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you are watching on Twitter, jump onto YouTube, subscribe to NUFC Matters. We do 7 shows a week. Take care. See you tomorrow.